Hello, and welcome to episode 54 of Expertise is Overrated, the podcast that takes the time to answer the questions you didn't know you didn't want the answers to. I'm Vib.
And I'm Sean, and neither of us has any clue what we're talking about, as evidenced by Take 2.
Yes.
Which came out much better, so...
Yeah. We just won't mention the fact that we messed up the intro,
probably
which is
didn't need to say... probably didn't need to say Take 2 at all. Anyway... while we're being honest, we do need to record that Marcone episode. We're just putting it off now because
you're telling the people again in the second take. I don't know why. They don't know. It's already been out for them. Unless, of course, it hasn't come out yet, in which case this is why.
That's the real risk. I just like being honest with people. You know, I like to wear my heart on my sleeve, let them know where we're at, all of these things.
What do you do for a living again?
Tell the truth.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like I have a regulatory obligation to be honest or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone buys that.
The fact that they don't really hurts my feelings.
It is weird, isn't it? Like how lawyers are often accused of being liars when it's one of the few professions where you can almost be guaranteed that's like a thing they can't do.
Lose your job and your career if you're caught in a lie of any kind at all. You can lose your career as a lawyer for jumping the barrier on the underground because that's a dishonesty offence. Unless,
of course, you're on the Supreme Court in the US. But moving on swiftly.
Moving on.
Today we are back in a universe that we said we wanted to revisit some time ago.
A very long time ago. It's a very long time since we've been here.
Yeah, and I don't really know why, to be honest with you.
I think it's because there's no new content for it being created. So hopefully that changes with the release of Old World.
That's kind of untrue in a way, because Total War Warhammer 3 has been adding new content to what is effectively Warhammer Fantasy.
I don't really know how to categorise that, though. It's almost, I know it's not actually, but it's almost fanfic.
It is
that's where I struggle with it, I think. Like, I love it. I think the game's great. The recent Chaos Dwarf release has actually really surprised me in how impressed I was by the Chaos Dwarves, because I always thought they were a bit of a waste of paper, but they seem really good fun.
After you told me that, I sort of had a look at some Chaos Dwarf content, and I don't really get your hype. It's
fair enough.
It's just a bunch of goblins with like a unit or two of dwarves, so it's like the worst possible combination.
I think you have to look beyond the bunch of goblin stacks to sort of what a late early game stack looks like, with 2 magma cannons, a whole bunch of blunderbusses, and then stuff in the middle to stand there and get hit while the blunderbusses do the killing. I've seen people describing them on Reddit as what the dwarves should have been at launch, and I think that's probably right.
Yeah, but people who made the dwarves have always been salty. I think
that's true.
The dwarves are a perfectly serviceable faction. I think they play more or less as you expect them to from the lore. No,
I think that's right.
They're tough and they have big guns at the back. Like,
I think the problem that people have is all of the equivalent Chaos Dwarf units are just provably better than their dwarf equivalents.
Yeah, but that's just power creep. The dwarves haven't been updated in a long time either, so
it may well just be power creep. It may well just be that simple.
It's always the issue with the Total War Warhammer DLC, right? Is that the new faction is undoubtedly going to be the strongest one in the game, because that's just how they do it. It feels like
all the best units in the game are DLC, aren't they? I'm fairly sure.
Ooh, is that true? It might well be true.
Sisters of Avalorn.
Yeah, it might well be true.
Sisters of Avalorn are, Way Watchers are.
Yeah, but that whole faction is DLC, so I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but they're still the best faction. They're still one of the best units in the game. All of the Skaven best units.
The Empire units that are good and not DLC, are they?
Hellstorms aren't DLC, no, that's true.
Yeah, no, maybe you have a point, actually. Yeah,
No. I don't know how compelling.
DLCs. But anyway, yes, so we're back in the old world.
We are.
And we're back with a list. I feel, when's the last time we did a list? It's been a while, I think, hasn't it?
Really recently, I feel. When did we last do a list? It feels like it was like
not done a list, have we?
2 minutes ago.
Oh yeah, the books we'd like to see on TV, I guess, was a sort of a list. But I don't know. That's not. It's not a top 10. It's not a classic.
Primarch for 10E. No,
nah,
that's
that
not
wasn't
really
a list
list.
either.
To be honest, we've not really done a list since casting the first age.
Maybe, yeah.
Jesus
So
Christ.
welcome back to a list episode.
It's nearly 20 episodes ago.
That can't possibly be right.
We
know our own content so well.
I also just can't do maths, so
no, that's very true. But yeah, so we're doing a top 10 of I guess the most powerful characters in the Warhammer Fantasy universe.
That's what the note on the Trello says.
Yeah, I think that's fine. We've struggled with the word powerful before.
I think we throw around the word power without defining it very carefully, and that's certainly what I've done here. But I think it does cause us some problems. Especially when we looked at, if you go back to our way back at the start, our Primarchs list for 40k, we really struggled there because neither of us could explain what our ranking was based on.
Yeah, but 40k I think suffers from. I don't know what it suffers from, but it suffers from it more than the old world. The scale of 40k is, I think, every new bit of lore is so overblown compared to the last that it just complicates things a lot.
Yeah, I think that's true. Fantasy, on the other hand, that's nice and simple.
And I feel in fantasy there's more dueling going on.
I think that's true, and it's in general everyone feels more comparable as well. Like you don't have, the Necron celestial orrery that's capable of deleting stars and things like that. The Necrons can turn a star supernova from half the galaxy away and things like that. Like you don't have weirdness like that in fantasy that breaks scales and almost needs ignoring.
And
fantasy is, discounting the end times. Fantasy is always still just two armies line up opposite each other on a field and beat 7 shades of shit out of each other until one of them's left standing. Which makes things simple.
True? I don't know about that. I think it might be a hot take.
I've pulled that out of my arse.
I think that might be a very hot take. But yeah, I guess more so than in 40k. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
It's more 2D, right?
Very much so. Everything's limited to conflicts capable of happening on a single celestial body.
Yeah, which is set in the same universe, but that's a story for another day.
Maybe.
Well, I'm sure we'll come on to Chaos again, one of our favorite topics when we discuss any kind of Warhammer. But so you've written in our notes here an interesting thing, which is problem of magic ? And I don't understand what you mean by that.
My question is magic and the existence of magic a problem in the creation of your or my list?
Not at all.
Because
it's a part of the universe, so
fair enough.
But what was the problem for you?
There were a large number of quote unquote powerful characters that are sort of discounted because they're not magical. They're not capable of harnessing the winds of magic for whatever reason that might be. So, you've got your... I'm going to struggle for an example now. Eltharion the Grim, right? He's like a mighty high elf general. Right, he is actually a wizard.
I was going to say, he casts magic. I don't know where you're going with that.
He is a bad example. Imric, right? Imric is not magical, rides the largest dragon in the setting, is heir to the mightiest kingdom of the High Elves, but can't cast spells. So is he just actually a chump when he bounces up against like a random bright wizard from the Empire?
Well, no, because he's got a big fuck off dragon.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, so, I mean, if he comes up against someone who can cast magic, I think he is ultimately in trouble in the sense.
Yeah, so that was all. That was sort of all I was saying with the problem of magic. Like, does the existence of magic force you to look at people who don't have access to that magic more harshly?
Well, is, I guess it depends on what our lists are, right?
No,
because looking at mine, actually, 9 out of 10 are magic users. That's not true. 8 out of 10.
Seven out of 10 on mine are.
Sorry, I assumed that one was, but he isn't actually. Well, and one after end times is actually. It's a lie.
There's some funniness around. I've also kind of ignored the end times for this.
Yeah,
like it's maybe played into my thinking a little bit in terms of, like, that's where you see lots of people go toe to toe with each other. So it's a good way of gauging power levels. But like, I'm not assuming if I have Tyrion on my list, for example, but I don't have Tyrion at the end of the end times as the incarnate of light.
Right? No, it just doesn't work, right?
Regular sword-swinging Tyrion.
Which I assume also means that we've both excluded Slaanesh, Tzeentch, Khorne.
Yeah, obviously.
Nurgle.
Yeah, I have. I don't have any of the gods for obvious reasons.
Although I would contend that they're not the most powerful because they never actually achieve anything. End times excluded.
Yeah, your argument is it them or is it their vessels, their entities?
And given the amount of power that they technically have at their disposal, it doesn't ever translate into that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, if you go to the Brass Keep, I'm sure that you're in trouble, but
yeah, Khorne's going to slap you, but you've got to go to him,
exactly,
and he's not in the world of Warhammer Fantasy. He's in the realm of chaos, which is different.
Yeah. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to just run through our lists respectively, and then?
That's probably the best thing. We do 10 to 1 each, and then see where we line up, see where we disagree, and just go from there and yell at each other a lot. Do you want to go first? Shall I go first?
Why don't you go first? Because I've got a few major caveats.
Okay, I don't really have any caveats other than please let me finish before you start yelling at me.
Sure.
I'm going to give the faction as well, just so that people have a vague idea.
That's something I cannot actually promise you. You realise?
Yeah, I know.
You might just hear me log off.
Yeah. Dunk. No, I'm gonna give the faction as well, just so for people who are listening to this, just because they enjoy listening to us talk rather than specifically Warhammer Fantasy, so you've got a better idea of what we're talking about. But anyway, so in 10th slot, and I think this is probably where we're going to spend most of our time arguing, I have Karl Franz, who is the Emperor of the Human Empire. At 9, I have Marathi of the Dark Elves. 8, Luon Leoncoeur of Bretonnia. 7, Vlad von Karstein of the Vampire Counts. 6, Tyrion of the High Elves. 5, Malekith of the Dark Elves. 4, Archaon of the Warriors of Chaos. 3, I have Lord Croak of the Lizard Men. 2, I have Teclis of the High Elves. And 1, I have Nagash of generic the Undead.
Okay. The Croak Teclis one is one that we'll unpack at some point. I'm not sure what you wanted me to shout at you for there. Is it Luon?
No, it was Franz.
Franz. No, Franz. But I knew that you'd pull some shit like that. At least you put him 10th. Yeah.
There is a caveat around Franz.
What? Because he turns into Sigma.
No. So I have Karl Franz, Emperor.
In terms of how wielded in a global scale, I guess it's pretty big.
Not even that. I'll get onto it. Give me your list, and then I'll justify Franz.
So with mine, I'll have to caveat it straight away, but as in once I've given it to you. So at number 10, I've got the Green Knight, ostensibly of Bretonnia, technically, I suppose. Number 9, I agree with you, Marathi of the Dark Elves. Number 8, I've got Grimgor Ironhide of the Orcs. At 7, I'm really tempted to say Manfred, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it, so it has to be Vlad. Vlad von Karstein of the Vampires. Then at 6, I've got Archaon of Chaos, pretty close to where you put him, I think. Then I've got Tyrion of the High Elves. Then I've got Malekith of the Dark Elves. Then I've got Teclis of the High Elves again. Then Nagash in second, and Croak in first.
I am shocked at our overlap.
So would you care to guess what's special about my list?
It's got Grimgor on it, which makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, it's not my list at all. This is literally, I googled top 10 characters, top 10 strongest characters from Warhammer Fantasy, and this was one from a Total War discussion forum.
You cheat.
Yeah, because I sort of looked at it and thought, maybe I could sell this to Sean. And weirdly, Grimgor's the one that you pointed out as being the weird one.
I don't like Grimgor on there. He's the only one. You've got Grimgor and the Green Knight rather than Franz and Luol. And otherwise, we have exactly the same people, just in different orders.
Pretty much. Yeah, and this is the thing when I saw this list. I was like, I find it hard to disagree with that, except for the cases which we'll talk about later, because there are some exceptions that I want to just sort of run by you, I suppose, or characters that I wanted.
Okay.
I was actually really tempted to really mess with you and put Carillion from Vermintide in number one, but I think the yelling would have been of such proportions that...
Do you have any honourable mentions then? So people that you... Well, obviously not, because you didn't do any fucking thinking yourself.
No, actually, the people I genuinely consider, and so the first two I'll mention are... We have to debate them because they're not current. So that would be Anarion and Calador Dragon Tamer.
Yeah, they I thought about as well.
And they would easily replace Teclis and Tyrion for sure. And it's hard to beat Croak, but I think they might... Certainly Anarion might beat Croak. Another honourable mention is Zulady / Ariel, I suppose. But she's
Ariel,
kind of a weird
Ariel
one.
is not the lady, to be completely clear.
Sorry,
yes.
Isha, right?
Ariel is Isha. Yes, that's right. And the lady is Lilith. Lilith?
Yeah, Lilith, yeah. But
Ladriel.
But they're both kicking about and are gods.
Yeah, so Ariel was on my honourable mentions as well, but I decided she was too complicated. Same with Orion, actually. Just too complicated, don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, Orion is an interesting one. I hadn't considered him, but I had considered Durthu / Coadil, because I don't really know if there's a pertinent difference between the two.
I think Durthu is the eldest, so if it's going to be either, it's going to be Durthu.
But I think they're the ones who end up surviving, right? Ultimately, he's
just a tree. Just like set him on fire, be fine.
Yeah, maybe. And then of course we get weird, because then I thought Skarbrand,
yeah,
Kabanda, Kairos, Kuga, Fikari, Be'lakor. pick a greater demon, and we can discuss.
I had that as well. And I also, with the same problem that you have with Anarion and Calador, you sort of have with like Morcar and people like that, or Asvarkul. Yeah, like the previous Everchosens. But again, they're not around, so just stick with the ones that are current.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, with the inclusion of Croak, you instantly get rid of people like Mazda Mundi and any Slan priest, who are all absurdly powerful.
That was my thinking. It's like, I'm only going to take one Slan because, you know, it's sort of the same with Vlad, right? You could probably replace Vlad with Neferata or Abarash or Wasoran or...
Manfred.
Not Manfred.
Well, no, but I think with Vlad, the importance there is that the charisma plays a role.
Yeah, so Vlad is a higher. The only one who could really challenge Vlad for his for the vampire count spot is Abarash, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't ever see him do anything. Like Abarash is basically a firstborn vampire, so he's the same. Assuming Vlad is who everyone thinks he is. Abarash is basically just Vlad, but doesn't need to drink blood.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really. I don't know. I like Vlad, so Vlad was the one I put on my list.
No, that's fair.
The Manfred point is a good challenge, though. But let's try and be a bit sequential about this. So, talk me through the Green Knight of Bretonnia.
See, this is ultimately why I ended up going with this list that I just purely stole off of the internet.
Yeah,
and I'm lazy.
Fair.
No, because the Green Knight was one that I wouldn't have ordinarily considered. I don't think I would have thought of him.
No,
but purely based on the Total War games and the limited lore I know of him, he is pretty OP. But I guess he's unusual in that he's not really permanent.
Yeah, he's a bit
unlike, I suppose, the others. But maybe that puts him on par with a greater demon like Cabana, who's also not really permanent.
I think I quite like that analogy. So yes, I think the Green Knight is pretty powerful, and if we take the end times as canon, which obviously we don't, although see our hot take on why it was both good and necessary.
I think we take it as canon, but I think
we didn't consider it.
We didn't go that far. Yeah.
If we take the end times as canon, then the Green Knight is Gilles le Breton, the founder of Bretonnia. But I don't know. He does feel quite greater demon-y, like the soul of Bretonnia who rides forth to protect her in her hours of need.
Yeah, it's a little bit Sigmar-y, isn't it?
It's a bit Sigmar. It's a bit. I don't know. I don't like ancestor. It's a bit like a dwarven ancestor god. I don't really like the inclusion. If they're allowed, then I think you're right that he belongs on the list. I almost wonder if he's low, if he's allowed.
Yeah, but if you're going to throw people like Sigmar into the mix.
Yeah,
it gets really complicated at that point, doesn't it? It just does. The issue I'm having is I don't know who I would put there. So you put Karl Franz in 10th.
Yeah.
Walk me through that, because I'm finding myself not able to agree. Tell you who I might actually put at 10th, whom we haven't mentioned, is one of the dragons from Cathay.
I just don't know enough about them.
That's sort of why I didn't go for it, but they are, by whole accounts, quite powerful from what we've seen.
If it's any of the dragons, it's probably the Celestial Dragon Emperor. Right, we've got to assume that they're at the top of whatever pecking order there is over in Cathay.
But then, are they around?
Yeah.
And are they not like a Gilles Le Breton or a Sigmar?
No, I think they're like an Ariel. Right.
Okay. Fine.
I think, or a Mazda, probably more like an Ariel.
Yeah.
Or a Malekith, in fact, like they founded Cathay. And are now the ruler thereof.
Yeah. So that would be my maybe non.
You're probably right, but I don't know enough about them.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I think that's part of the issue. There's a Karl Franz.
By contrast, Karl Franz. So you have to do a little bit of work here, because Karl Franz is just a vanilla human. So you throw a stone at him and he dies. I accept that, right? But time and time again in the lore, we see that Karl Franz's most useful trait is not as a general, it's not as a warrior, it's as a statesman. His ability to bring disparate peoples together, to unite the empire, and then unite the forces of order against chaos. That is in and of itself powerful. So,
but he only ever really does that for the end times, doesn't he?
No, he does it like all the way through his tenure as emperor. He's a hugely influential politician,
including non-human,
a hugely effective politician. He rebuilds empire and dwarf relationships. For example, he promotes peace with Bretonnia. He builds peace with Bretonnia. He builds coalitions against the Greenskins. Like. He builds relations with Kislev. He's just a politician at the end of the day. But the difference is he's the only politician in the world, and he's fucking good at it. And that's why I've got him on my list. Like, anyone else on my list or your list chops him in half without really worrying about it. But that's not his point.
Oh, I don't know if I like that.
I didn't think you would.
I guess within the constraints of the way that the old world always works, maybe. Because chaos is always just the threat, right? And I think the function that you say Karl Franz performs is absolutely true, and it's super powerful. That's why they hold out so long. But I feel you take chaos out of the equation, if the world is really dog eat dog, then I think Karl Franz becomes quite useless.
I don't know that I agree with that. So if you look at, I'm going to struggle with this analogy, so bear with me. If you look at I think I'm going to get this timeline right, late 19th and early 20th century Europe, you have two phenomenal statesmen in Germany and in France, one of whom is Otto von Bismarck, and I forget the name of the French chap, working tirelessly to promote peace between France and Germany to prevent World War One. Right? And eventually they fail, and World War One comes along and and ruins Europe for the next 100 years. But in that time, when there's two people working at peace, the entire continent benefits, and there's no existential threat in Europe in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. You've just got like a load of countries who probably just want to go and slap each other about a bit, which is the old world. But you've got people working at peace, pushing at peace, because they understand that peace makes everyone richer, peace makes everyone healthier, peace makes everyone better. And that's, I think, the role that Karl Franz would do, even if you take out the existential threat. And you're still going to have an existential threat anyway, because you've got Malekith and you've got the orcs. So you're always going to have an external threat.
I mean, Malekith being a threat is a whole separate debate.
Well, there's a real there's a debate to be had there.
Karl Franz. See, I don't find myself disagreeing with you necessarily. I just don't know if that puts him in the top 10 most powerful beings in the old world.
The problem is there's about 20 beings that you could list below Franz who chop him in half.
Yeah, and so many of the things that you described just don't apply to a lot of the characters, because diplomacy is like just not a thing, right? For a lot of people. It's
an unfair barometer by which to judge everyone else, because it doesn't make sense for anyone else.
Yeah, because at that point you have to start considering it, and this is where my lore knowledge really lets me down, perhaps. But like the Council of the Skaven, because they sort of unite empires, right, of rats. Assuming the Skaven are real, that's I guess the bigger problem.
I suppose, but there's no individual standout there, like Franz is. Like, that's a council of bickering rivals, whereas Franz pulls to... It's like if there was an emergent Skaven warlord, right, who's able to unite the Council of 13, behind him and lead the entirety of Skavendom to victory, which is probably what happens in the end.
I contend that Karl Franz is that. I think that's just writer's bias, which is a narrative tool, and it makes perfect sense because he is the human. But I somehow don't see him actually when the dust settles being the guy who's like become the Grand Unifier and has made the elves and the dwarves put their differences aside. I think that would be the influences of people like Teclis, and so on. But I hate it, but I don't hate it.
I'm quite disappointed. I thought we were going to be yelling about that for half an hour.
Well, no, because there's a reason so many people like Karl Franz, and it isn't because he's a great warrior, because he just isn't. But this is where the word "powerful" is. Yeah. There's enough wiggle room to sort of make your argument work, I think.
He's got a big doubt. big damn hammer, and he rides a griffin. So he's like,
he's cool, yeah.
Untidy on a battlefield.
Okay, so in that case, so then walk me through why you think that he is less powerful than Lua.
Because Luon is a Grail Knight and could go toe to toe with a vampire. Like, Luon is a phenomenal individual combatant. He just is.
But he does nothing diplomatically.
Yeah, no, I know. And I've shoved Franz onto my list in the number 10 spot because the only thing that Franz does is diplomacy.
Right, so he's effectively such an honourable mention that you felt you had to include it.
Yeah, exactly. Essentially,
list,
yes. That number 10 spot should probably be Gotrek, I reckon.
Oh, I was so pleased that we managed to somehow completely snub all the dwarves.
The problem is all the best dwarf characters other than Gotrek are just in the past. Right, your Morgrim Elgidums, your Snorri Whitebeards, your Gotrek Starbreakers, they're all in the past. And like, sure, Thorgrim's great, Ungrim's great, but
they're not capital G
great. They're not capital G great. The only one who potentially is Grombrindle, and Grombrindle has the Green Knight problem of, is he a real person or is he the living incarnation of an entire race's rage and vengeance?
Yeah, which is definitely cheating, isn't it?
Which is just cheating.
But yeah, I feel those kind of guys are probably all more or less equivalent, right? Like Green Knight, Grombrindle. Yeah, they're sort of.
I think that's probably true. Krell.
See, but this is why Croak is so interesting, who we both put very high up, because he sort of is
Isn't
that, except
Croak
that he's
also that.
He's always there. He's just always dead.
I think that's the difference. Isn't Croak just another Vlad?
Yeah, he's like an undead lizard.
Yeah.
I think that's fair, right? I think that's fair.
He is undead. He's provably undead in the setting.
But I think the criteria is he is permanently present.
He's undead.
You could technically track Croak.
He's undead. He's not a mysterious ancestor spirit like Grombrindle is,
exactly.
or the Green Knight is.
So yeah, no, I agree with you. The dwarves are all fucking useless, so they didn't want to be included.
Except maybe Gotrek.
I don't know. I don't know enough about him, and he just strikes me as
he sort of 1v1's a bloodthirster.
Yeah, but he's too sort of ex machina for that, right? He's the guy you write into a story when you don't know how else to end it.
That's sort of true, except he's got his own series of books, so he's written into his own books in order to end them. I don't
ultimately,
quite know.
If you're not 1v1ing a bloodthirster at this point, what are you doing with your life? There's probably a book somewhere where a lone drafted peasant from Bretonia 1v1's a bloodthirster.
Bloodthirsters are the Warhammer Fantasy equivalent of getting dwarfed.
that is a weird sentence I never thought I'd hear.
They are though.
I mean, it's hard to find fault with that statement. Really, I was like, is that tinfoil? It's probably tinfoil, but
it's probably tinfoil, but it's also correct.
That's one of those comments that isn't just a casual throwaway, which you told me off for before we started recording.
Yeah, no, I'd stand behind that one if you tried to tinfoil me.
I might have to write that one down.
There's a few things still to talk about, which is good because we're only half an hour in. Grimgore Ironhide.
Yeah, now I'll say that one I think may have been slightly biased by the end times.
I think it has to be. Dumb as a box of rocks orc. Like, he's got nothing special other than he's a big orc.
Yeah.
Surely.
This is where I really thought it would be a giveaway that this wasn't my list, because he is the hardest to defend by far. End times excluded. Although, again, based on the people we've mentioned, I struggle to think who I'd replace him with, except for, just adding in another high up elf or lizard, like Krokgar, maybe.
My problem is I don't know enough about the lizards, which is kind of also why I've got Croak, because I basically went, there should probably be a Slann on here, so I'll just shove Croak on and be done with it.
But he's just absurdly powerful and is like one of the most ancient beings around. But for Grimgor, maybe Neferata, I guess, would be one. The one that I considered actually changing him for was Cetra, perhaps. Or Arkan, the Black. So the other major undead faction.
Yeah,
the Tomb Kings.
The Tomb Kings.
But in isolation, they're just... Yeah. If Cetra was like the Tomb Emperor and sort of had a Karl Franz element where he unites everyone together somehow, maybe. But Cetra just kind of just hates Nagash, and that's his whole thing.
Cetra's a big fucking deal, but kind of only amongst the Tomb Kings. That he is the preeminent Tomb King.
Yeah. But it's just not really enough.
It's not really
Whereas
enough.
I feel Grimgor is probably the preeminent orc.
And it is enough.
And that means enough. Yeah, that means something. Because if all the orcs go to war with all the Tomb Kings, I think there's only one winner there.
The rest of the world?
Yeah, can you imagine how much popcorn you'd need to watch that fight conclude?
Yeah.
Grimgor's weird, but I kind of like it because I feel the orcs... they're inherently very strong. I think they're powerful because becoming an orc warlord is not an easy thing to do, and they're becoming like one of his like stature is pretty badass.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. He's an impressive orc, but I feel like the real strength of the greenskins is their numbers rather than their
But that's why I'm going to apply your Karl Franz argument.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Grimgor beats the crap out of another war boss, and then his army's twice as big.
Exactly.
That's fair. I get that.
And then Grimgor meets Karl Franz, and again, there's only one winner.
Yeah, that's a problem. That is a problem that I don't have an answer to.
Although if you kill Karl Franz, you get Sigmar, so...
That's the difference.
You take it or leave it, I suppose.
Grimgor is your single point of failure in that army, whereas Franz is less so, because the whole idea of the alliance building that Franz does is it should survive the death of anyone, like, key person.
Yeah, but in terms of arguing who's more powerful, surely that means by definition that Grimgor is the more powerful. He's the single point of failure of an entire orc horde.
Potentially. I don't know. Putting him... You've got him high. You don't have him high. You've got him at 8. But you've got him high. Above Morathi?
I was just about to say, what's potentially egregious in that list is he's above Morathi, but then you've also put Luan above Morathi. Yes, arguably, the fact that we both put Morathi at 9 is kind of unforgivable. Like, she is one of the most influential, one of the most long-lived influential...
That's true.
Dickheads the old world has ever known. Like, she causes more trouble than everyone else on that list, with the possible exception of Nagash.
But she only ever causes trouble. Like, everything she tries to do fails.
I think her weakness, and is where she's low down, is that she's sort of a slave to the gods, right? The chaos gods, which is a problem.
And she's so pants-cacklingly evil.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of real talk, she's just the sex sells, bit for Warhammer Fantasy battles. that's sort of all she is, unfortunately. And her lore is really interesting, but yeah, perhaps she does belong at 9. I think she's definitely top 10 based on all the trouble she's caused.
I think that's right, and just by virtue of her extreme age, you've got to think that makes her a phenomenally powerful wizard. Just applying basic, you've been doing it a long time, so you got good at it, principles.
Yeah, and this is where we come to your problem with magic. Like, she'll be really damn good at magic.
Yeah. She will be. But, like, Vlad snaps her like a twig.
Assuming he can get there, yeah.
Assuming he can get to her. Putting her below Luon, that's maybe pushing it.
Well, Luon I just struggle with a little bit. And mostly that's because he's got such a ridiculous hat that I've just never been able to take him serious. He does have a really stupid hat.
He does have a stupid hat. To be fair, there's a lot of stupid hats on this list.
Yeah, but Luon's is particularly dumb.
It's quite egregious, isn't it?
His is particularly daft. So Luon, all right, go and defend Luon. Why is he a top 10 powerful individual for your list?
I think
Luon Leoncoeur.
So it fundamentally boils down to people don't realise how awesome Grail Knights of Bretonnia are. They're like living gods. They... Like, I think the problem...
Who isn't at this point?
It's a fair challenge. I don't remember the exact specifics, but like a single Grail Knight solos, like a whole horde of beastmen and stuff like that, including Doom Bulls, like they just... A Grail Knight is not human anymore. There's something else, something like ascended. And
which
Luon,
is very... Sorry, before you go into it, it's a bit similar to what we once contended about Chaos Warriors, right?
Yes.
Like one Chaos Warrior is just absurd.
Yeah, it's the book that I remember talking about. Troll Slayer has a single Chaos Warrior in it that's like just like, well, we're all dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't deal with that. And a Grail Knight is the Bretonnian equivalent of that.
Yeah.
But like they're like chosen level, at least.
But is Luon any more elevated, do you think?
Well, he's got all the best kit.
Yeah, that's true.
Which probably helps.
Yeah, it does help. Stupid
but yes, I think he is. So he's like specifically anointed by the lady or by the Fey Enchantress above just your average Grail Knight. So yes, I do think he is a little bit more puissant than your average Grail Knight.
Could he take Alberic is the real question.
Could he take Alberic like every day of the week and twice on a Tuesday? Fucking Alberic.
He's so stupid.
Just sit in Bordello and make me money.
Yeah. No, Luon. Yeah, no, that's another fair argument. I just don't see it. I think I struggle to contextualize it a little bit with him, but I don't know why.
So a hippogriff.
Great content.
Yeah, well done. This is difficult, and I don't know why. A hippogriff is less impressive than a griffin or a dragon, I grant you. But
is it less impressive than a griffin?
I feel like it is.
That's about the same, no?
Nah.
Beaquis.
Yeah. I don't know. Beaquis.
Beaky. It's a cool name.
It is a good name. But no, I don't know. I feel like his mount maybe is less impressive, but like the being riding it is so phenomenally more impressive. But I could...
Yeah.
I don't feel particularly strongly about Luon at 8. Like there are other...
Well, I think we're learning from doing this is that there actually aren't that many like single OP powerful characters to think about in this universe.
No, there's no one screaming out, "Why am I not on your list?"
Before I actually move on, there's one honorable mention I do maybe want to sneak in, which is Deathmaster Snikch. But his power is so hard to quantify because again, you put him 1v1 versus anyone on the top 10. I think he loses to Karl Franz, but he kills you before you know he's there.
If Franz sees him coming, he's already lost. But I don't know. I don't like the Skaven.
No, they're fundamentally too squishy and too short-lived to really be included, I think. But there's something about Luon that I don't like. I think he's almost more egregious than Karl Franz, but I can't quite put my finger on why. It's really frustrating. It's amazing that he's at number 8 where I put Grimgor, which is also the one I hate most about my list.
I feel like he should be easier to defend than Karl Franz, but I'm sort of struggling to defend him. I'm not replacing him with Grimgor because that's fucking stupid.
Because why Luan then not the Fey Enchantress? If we're talking Bretonnians.
Because I don't find the Fey Enchantress particularly compelling.
No, I don't know too much about her, to be honest. She's kind of mysterious, but...
And I think that might be the problem that I'm having with Luan. I'm fairly confident that he's a phenomenally powerful human combatant, like up head and shoulders above most humans. But if you were to turn around and say, no, that should just be Altharion, for example, I'd probably be like, yeah, probably.
And that's the sort of comparison to struggle with, right? You mentioned Imric at the start, who is one of the mightiest elf lords. And so this is where we start to there's so little direct comparison, right? You know, if you have a high elf fighting a Bretonnian Grail Knight, like how does that end? It's hard to judge.
Yeah, and the answer is probably it comes down to, at that point, who it is. So Luon loses to Tyrion. Like I don't think that's even remotely a question. But does Luon lose to Imric if Imric's
on
if
foot?
They're both on foot?
If Imric's on foot.
I don't know, but Imric... I think Luon probably wins. If Imric gets to bring Minathnir or whatever it's called, Imric wins, and he wins hard.
But Imric is a nails 1-to-1 fighter who's been around for a lot longer than Luon, right?
That's also true.
It's the problem with elves, right? Is that they especially the ones who focus on martial prowess, like they can devote hundreds of years to that. See Malekith.
See Malekith.
So I don't know. As in terms of human factions, Luon definitely has to be considered. I just don't know how well he'd stand up to the equivalent power level of like
an Imric or a Malice or
Malice. Yeah, Malice is actually an interesting mission, isn't he?
Yeah, Malice without Zarkan, chump.
Not quite a
Malice
chump. I don't know. I think Malice without Zarkan probably still kills Carl Franz easily.
Mate, it depends if you don't get to use Zarkan, do you still get the warp sword? Like but Malice is so complicated.
Just unarmed, he still beats Carl Franz.
I don't think that's true.
Stiff Breeze kills Carl Franz. Boris Tordbringer kills Carl Franz, you know.
That's probably true.
Sarina Katerin comes down and like slaps him, and Carl Franz is dead. So I think Malice, you know, in with a shout.
It's true.
But no, this is, you know, it would have been a very boring. Well, it could have been quite a funny meme list to just be like High Elf number 1, High Elf number 2, High Elf number 3. But
you just do Nagash, Teclis, Croak, High Elf, High Elf, High Elf.
That one random Phoenix Guard. Ultimately, they will take most people 1v1. You know, it's like
you've got like Alethanar, Caradrian, Eltharion, Corhill, and it's like, oh, I've got to number 10. Oh well.
See, I'm amazed you also didn't point out the fact that I didn't include Ilariel.
I did notice you didn't include Ilariel, and I thought, you know, this is personal growth on your part, and I didn't want to call attention to it.
I think looking her power is again so hard to define.
I don't think she's a combatant. I think that's a Total War Warhammer-ism.
Yeah, but again, then you end up in the Carl Franz world, right? Because she's like the unifier of the High Elves when the time comes.
True, but Franz does lead armies. Ilariel is a figurehead. She's like a rallying symbol.
Yeah.
But the person who pulls the elves together is Tyrion. It's not Ilariel.
It's Tyrion. So it's interesting. We both have Tyrion and Teclis, and both have Teclis higher.
Yep.
Whereas they're really kind of a double act, right? Because I don't think Tyrion does anything smart without Teclis's advice.
Tyrion is a blunt instrument.
Yeah.
He just happens to be one of the most effective blunt instruments ever.
Yeah, I think what's notable about Tyrion is that his mount is completely unremarkable. Well, I mean, it's a very remarkable horse, but it's a horse.
It's a very shiny horse, but yes, it's just
like
a horse.
Archeon, right? It's just Chaos Horse is inherently, I guess, kind of remarkable as well. But
Dorkar isn't a pedant alert. Dorkar isn't a horse. Dorkar is a demon who takes the shape of a horse. It's a very small difference. It's
Chaos Horse. Or Chorse,
no.
if you will.
There is a difference.
Yeah, but this is again when then you look at the side of good, and there's so many things that are like, are you just a demon, but a good kind of demon thing? But no, point taken. Archeon's horse is a Chorse, so.
But yes, you're right. Tyrion's horse is literally just a horse.
Yeah, so interesting thing about Tyrion. So I guess the interesting things there is that we both put Tyrion one rank below Malekith, which I think is quite telling, and we both end up putting Teclis above Malekith, which I think is also quite telling.
Mm-hmm.
Where we differ is that I think Tyrion takes Archeon, and you think Archeon takes Tyrion and Malekith.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on my Archeon Malekith split. I think that's probably a very close fight. Malekith is a sorcerer and Tyrion isn't, and that's why Malekith goes ahead.
Yeah, no,
and
I think
Malekith
I agree
rides
with
a fucking
yeah.
dragon.
I think this is just why
I'm swearing a lot this episode. Sorry,
but Archeon, again, to use your Karl Franz argument, he is the Karl Franz of chaos.
Yeah, that's why I've got him so high. Like, Archeon's power isn't only his own power, although that is high. He is also the grand unifier of chaos, right? So he pulls all of chaos together, points it at the south, and goes, "Go kill!" Like, that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, looking at my list again, it's because I've just never fully really liked Archeon. I think that's why I ended up below Malekith and Tyrion.
He's an existential threat, which is the point that you identified right at the start, right? He's not a character. He's like a force of nature, almost. So
yeah.
I don't know.
For me, Tyrion, the reason I put Tyrion with Archeon, because Tyrion in my head has always just been this completely absurdly reckless dude who will just sometimes charge headlong into the fray on his own and probably still win. So it's like individual power on a martial scale that I find hard to ignore. Malekith, I think, can probably do that as well to an extent. Plus, he is a wizard.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, he has a dragon sometimes. Plus, he technically is sort of the Phoenix King, maybe, quote unquote. What I don't like about Malekith is if he just stops being such a bellend, he probably could unite the elves.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Malekith is his own worst enemy, and if you go back to the when he's passed over for the Phoenix Throne, if he just throws himself into being the next Phoenix King, you have no problem at all.
Yeah.
But he just turns into this like salty little incel, and it's just so stupid.
So instead of waiting maybe like a century to ascend the Phoenix Throne,
to be fair,
like thousands of years later.
Well, to be fair, Belshazzar reigns for 1,000 years, so...
Oh, yeah, okay, fine, but...
It's a long time.
But still, it would have been a shorter time than what ended up happening.
Exactly.
So let's talk about Teclis, then. Why have we both put Teclis so high up?
Because he beats Malekith.
Yeah, I think that's literally it, isn't it? It has to be.
He beats Malekith when Teclis is a child. Or not a child. He's in the elfish equivalent of his 20s. And he beats 6,000-year-old Malekith in a magical duel.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, yeah.
And he then goes on to be, everything that he does in the end times. He founds
the cult. Considering, but okay.
Which we're not considering his power in the end times, but like the magic that he does in the end times is impressive.
Teaches humanity magic as well.
He teaches humanity magic. He finds a way to take the sort of magic that the High Elves do, break it down into its constituent elements, and teach those constituent elements to humans, because humans aren't capable of understanding the magic that the elves wield.
I think that's actually a really underrated point that you've made very well there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm impressed for once. Wow, you've actually done something I thought you never
Thank
could.
you.
But that's exactly right. He understands magic so incredibly well that he can teach it to fundamentally unmagical beings. Like, it's really impressive.
Yeah. So there's a thing in the Warhammer Fantasy universe that the Winds of Magic is split into like 8 schools, essentially. And humanity can only learn one of those schools. They can only wield one of the 8 winds, whereas the elves can wield all 8, and so don't think about magic in that broken down way until Teclis comes along and breaks it out for humanity and founds the 8 colleges of magic in the Empire. Which is, like, it's just like,
it's super impressive.
That's Dumbledore levels of magical understanding. And the only other being that I know of that we see with that level of mastery of magic is Nagash. Croak, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, so with Croak, I must say I've made a little bit of an educated guess. Because I think Croak is so ancient that he's essentially just Old One adjacent. I think he essentially just has like a direct link to the Old Ones, and therefore I am assuming his magic is beyond that of Teclis and Nagash.
Well, the Slann are meant to be the Old Ones, the most magical creations of the Old One, and the first generation of the Slann are the most powerfully magical of the Slann.
Exactly.
And Croak is the most powerful first generation Slann.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I picture him as essentially just having this like direct mental link to the Old One still.
That chain of logic is quite hard to argue with. I don't know.
But
he's so isolationist.
Yeah, he's much harder to judge. But I just feel if you had a battle royale arena, you put Croak, Nagash, and Teclis in it, and I think Croak walks out. Well,
I think Croak walks out. I think that's correct.
I think Croak might be to Teclis what Teclis is to the humans, if it comes down to it.
Maybe,
but I have zero evidence for that.
But
we roll with that.
Possible. That's possible. I just don't know. So that's why I've got him at 3, because I know that those 3 are head and shoulders above everyone else.
I think they have to be, yeah.
And I have him at 3 because he's the one I know the least about.
That's fair. Whereas I had exactly the same logic, but therefore put him at 1.
Yeah, and I think that's a defensible one.
And then we put Nagash and Teclis in the respectively in the same order. So
I think that's interesting that we've both got Nagash and Teclis.
Well, I say
we've both got Nagash.
Random guy in the Total War forum.
Teclis. Yeah.
No, but I think that's right? I mean, Nagash is just super scary.
And he invents a whole, like, it's not a school of magic, but he invents a whole new magical theory, which I think even above and beyond what Teclis does.
The one thing we have to talk about is, isn't Nagash dead?
I don't think he ever stays dead. I think that's like the problem. Because isn't the Crown of Sorcery trying to get Azag to regather all of the various artifacts of Nagash?
But that's the thing, right? Is that he's a collection of artifacts in most of the timeline.
Maybe.
Well, not most of it, like most of the later timeline.
I think the problem is, though, his spectre hangs so heavily over Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah, but more so than a Bellicor?
Is Nagash the same as Calador? dragon tamer.
Okay, keep going.
Well, no, because you said earlier we need to talk about Calidor Dragon Tamer and Anarian the Defender. So Anarian is different because Anarian is definitely dead and not coming back.
The Calidor is alive but trapped.
Yeah, but like they're two phenomenally powerful magical beings whose phenomenally powerful ritualized magic shapes the world in which all of these other characters move. So, and neither of whom is currently alive and active in the setting. So that's why I'm saying, are they equivalent?
No, I don't think Calidor and Nagash are, because as you say, I think Nagash is someone who does come back and has come back repeatedly and has done stuff, whereas Calidor, I think, is just too far gone.
I think that's probably right. I don't think there's any...
I feel it would be in someone like Teclis's interest to try and figure out an alternative and get Calidor back, right? But he doesn't do it.
Well, he talks to Calidor at times. He speaks to Calidor, I think, in the end times. Yeah, so we need to take that with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we need to take that with a pinch of salt. But he speaks to Calidor, and Calidor is like, the only thing that I can tell you to do is release the vortex, and in so doing, you'll kill me, but that's the right thing to do. Because X, Y, Z. Yeah. But there are... What is it? I can't remember the book. But he also like talks to Marathi at some point. I don't think this is End Times. I think this is in the Tyrion and Teclis books. And he essentially, like, Marathi is trying to work out how to unshackle and unbind the vortex and then shackle the magic to her own devices. And Calidor is like...
Nah, mate.
Well, no. He basically comes to her in a dream or something and goes, yeah, you know, that might work. You're not that shit at magic. But please believe me when I say there will be a fraction of time in which I no longer have to hold the vortex. And in that fraction of time, I will kill you. Like, that is a promise that I am in a position to make to you. And Marathi's like, yeah, all right, I'll come up with another plan. So she's clearly absolutely terrified of Calidor.
Well, yeah, but that's because she gets beat up by Grimgor and Luan, so...
Yeah, she does. She's snapped in half by Vlad.
I'm sure that's a fanfic somewhere.
Hello.
Calidor is... Yeah, for that split second, probably the most powerful, certainly mortal being.
I wonder, is he more powerful than Croak? I just Croak as creative, so I think that might be his working through this. Croak might be like incredibly powerful, like capable of literally channeling more magic than anyone else.
That's it, right? There's the...
I don't see him as inventing magic like Nagash does, or being able to abstract and break down magic to teach like Teclis does.
But I think that's because
he's just like a fire hose.
Yeah, he's a vessel for magic, but I just imagine Croak being able to channel it unlike anyone else.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. But I think that, like, if someone works out, like, I think it's possible to outthink Croak.
Maybe, but no. I guess what I'm trying to say is that
creative Croak.
No, but I think I'm picturing this as a bit of a Tolkien issue, as in I think Croak is just a level of power above anything that we can get. Right, so even if Teclis can outthink Croak, like you just can't match that power skill. You just can't get there.
Maybe it's like almost like a Valar Maiar problem.
Exactly, yeah, because Croak is so ancient, and over time, of course, everything wanes in power. Like we see that
That's true.
In many fantasy tropes, and we've talked about it a lot. And I just think Croak is a remnant of that old power, which is why you have to make him dead and essentially only show up every once in a while.
I think that's true. If we think this through sensibly, Croak is almost certainly more powerful than Calidor.
Yeah.
Right, and Calidor is more powerful than Teclis, ergo...
Exactly.
Croak has to be more powerful than Teclis.
I think so,
I think that has to be true.
Because the old ones and the Slann predate the High Elves, right? Effectively, the High Elves learn magic
from the
Slann, yeah.
Or from the old ones, I'm not sure. I think it's from the Slann.
Yeah, it's a bit unclear, right? It's like, do the old ones just sort of then teach a new race, or do they do it through the Slann? It's a bit unclear.
Right, let's chuck a few curveballs in there just for the last 5 minutes. Drachenfels. I have no idea. He's either like 1 or 274. Right, there's just not enough.
Well, he was so powerful that they had to just remove him from the canon.
I think he was just so problematic they had to remove him from the canon.
It was just clearly like a writer made him up, and then everyone else was like, "Yeah, no, you can't have that."
No, stop it.
Like, he does what now? Get out of here. Yeah, you can throw some curveballs.
Grombrindle, so the White Dwarf, Snorri Whitebeard, whoever you want to call him. Where do you reckon they fit in this?
I think there's a whole subcategory of beings like them, right? Which we've sort of talked about, but I don't know. I know
there is. I'm just pulling out ones at random now and going to make you pick.
I think Grombrindle beats Franz. He beats Franz.
I think he beats
Grimgor.
I think he sits around about the Vlad. He's like, he's maybe a number 8.
Do you think he takes Luon?
Do I think Grombrindle takes Luon? Yes. It sort of depends on who Grombrindle actually is. Like, if he's just a reincarnating Snorri Whitebeard, no. If he's the 4th dwarven ancestor god, yeah, he probably does. Like, it...
Yeah, problematic, isn't it?
He's maybe a bad challenge.
Yeah, maybe like a Vladis character, maybe not a bad shout. Yeah,
yeah. I feel like he's that sort of power level. Like, probably loses to a Tyrion or a Malekith or an Archaon.
Yeah,
but in that sort of lower half of the table.
So, I guess people we haven't really talked about. What are the likes of Sigvald and like the big chaos leaders?
They all lose to Archaon fundamentally, and I don't know. I don't think any of the other chaos champions are particularly scary, and on the level of all of these. Someone like a Valkyria, maybe.
Yeah, when we're operating on the level of a single Chaos Warrior isn't in fact scary, then yeah, I think Sigvald isn't that scary.
I think that's the thing. Isn't Sigvald just one of the best Chaos Warriors? But we're talking about people who eat Chaos Warriors for breakfast. Yeah. Like Tyrion rides through armies of Chaos Warriors. So
there's definitely an interesting fanfic to be written there. Like Tyrion just murders a bunch of human villagers in a fit of rage.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure that just happens. Tyrion has some issues.
Yeah, but he's never held to account.
What? No, true. It's a real problem of the High Elves. Anyway, what about someone like an Anarian then?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he is just the elf version of Karl Franz, I think. And therefore ends up really high.
I think he's more like a Croak, to be honest with you. Like, he single-handedly...
I sort of mean that. But because he's an elf version of Karl Franz, he ends up up there.
No, I think the problem is, so you're thinking of him as like he's the one who unites the then elves against the sort of first great.
Yeah, but you take all that away, and he's still an absurd badass.
He single-handedly turns the tide of that war. It's not he builds an army that does it. Him on his own, he turns the tide. Like, I don't like, and he rides the largest dragon ever and stuff like that. Like, I think he might, if you have an Anarian, he's like a number 1 or a number 2.
Yeah, but the elves do cheat a little bit with their dragons, right? Like it's really hard to take dragons out of the equation. But no, I agree with you. I think Anarian would still be 1 or 2.
The only dragon rider we have is Malekith.
Yeah, true.
So yes and no.
Do you think that's why? Do you think that's what Teclis and Tyrion are doing? They're like, if we rode dragons, it would just be unfair.
Well, it's because there are so few dragons. No, so only Calador Dragon Tamer's line can ride them. I think.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I think that's the lore explanation.
That would make sense. But no, in terms of history, Anarian would easily be up there. But then we're also talking, Skarbrand before Skarbrand was neutered.
If we're having Anarian, we need to have the Skarbrand, Kabanda, Kugath, Kairos, Nkari.
Yeah, but I don't think there can be any debate
conversation
that if Skarbrand is Skarbrand before Skarbrand tries to take on Khorne, like, let that sink in for a minute. This guy tries to take on the god.
It
and then loses.
Badly for it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, but you're taking on Khorne. Like, what do you expect?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I don't know that Skarbrand receives much of a power down after he tries to take on Khorne. He loses his wings, but he just becomes really angry all the time. Like, even more so.
Yeah, I think that's a bit akin to sort of dismounting from a dragon, right? For him.
Yeah, sure.
But I think he beats all the other demons in the list.
With Skarbrand?
Yeah, with the exception maybe of Kairos, but Kairos is just too weird.
It's probably a bit of a coin flip for all 4 of them, I suspect.
All 4 being Skarbrand, Kairos, Kugath, and Kari.
Yeah. If we assume that those are the 4 foremost of the god servants, it's probably just a coin flip.
Depending
on which god is in the ascendancy.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. It sort of depends, right? Because ultimately, I think to the mortal world, Kugath would probably do the most damage, right? Because plagues and stuff.
It's a really weird one, isn't it? Because like 1v1, Skarbrand does the most damage to an army, like hands down, no question. That's true on the tabletop. The bloodthirsters were the most expensive greater demons, and they did the most damage. But the great unclean ones, you're probably right, do like long term the most damage to civilization.
Yeah. Well, I can never take them seriously because I always just picture myself looking Kugath straight in the eye and just popping a penicillin, and he just goes, "No!"
Just flick one into his open tummy. Gotcha.
But there's also that whole school of thought that like great unclean ones just want to be everyone's friends, right? Have you heard that?
Yeah, that's like a pretty common theory. Well, it's not even a theory. It's just
it's just, yeah, I just hate it. So yeah, I mean it's difficult with those guys because Skarbrand. If Skarbrand comes running at me, I think I'd be more concerned. I'm actually saying if Kairos Fate Weaver ran at me, I'd be like, what the fuck is going on?
Why is there a 2-headed bird running at me, and why does it keep bumping into things?
So yeah, those guys, I think they're just too hard to comprehend. But
oh crap! I turned into a pile of goo.
Turns out I was Nurgle all along.
Right, I think we're veering into insane. So
yeah, I think at this point we just have to ask the listeners who've made it this far. Hey, thank you. Well done.
That's impressive.
If you are a fan of the old world, let us know who you think the top 10 are, and if there's any that we've completely overlooked? I'm sure there is someone.
Absolutely.
I have this nagging feeling that we've overlooked someone really quite important.
So do I. It's bugging me.
But I can't think who or what.
I feel like there's a couple of vampire challenges. So Abarash and Neferata, I think, are big challenges. Especially to like Vlad. Can you have Vlad if you don't have Neferata? I think the answer is yes, because that man oozes charisma.
That's literally it, right? But doesn't Neferata? Well, she kind of hates people too much.
It's not the same, I don't think.
I always picture like Vlad could pull off just being an Elector Count. If that didn't mean he had to be an Elector Count and not like, you know.
He tries it. He tries it in the end times. He basically... I don't remember who he's talking to, but he's basically like, look, there's a good chance at the end of this, most of the Elector Counts are dead, and I'm technically still the Elector Count of Stirland, so I could be Emperor. And everyone's like...
Oh, no.
Well, he's not wrong, but he's also definitely wrong. It's quite funny.
There's probably some vampiric challenges. Abarash is just too much of an unknown for me. But he's also definitely dead, isn't he? Is he still around?
No, he's definitely alive. Yeah, he just doesn't get involved.
Yeah, maybe I just don't know anything about him, really. Other than, he is absurdly powerful. But
yeah.
I'm sure we've missed someone off and will be crucified for it.
Oh, no doubt. I'm looking forward to it. But I think all that remains is to say thank you for listening to this episode of Expertise is Overrated. No doubt, we've said some things that were either objectively wrong or downright offensive. As ever, feel free to let us know, rate the podcast and leave us a comment, or drop us an email at expertiseisoverrated@gmail.com, tweet us at @zeroexpertise, check out our website, expertiseisoverrated.podbean.com, or come join us on our Discord server.
If you're lucky, we might just argue with you in one of our upcoming episodes, and if you're really lucky, we might call you an idiot. Come back next time for some more absolute nonsense.